Greetings and welcome into the Sports Shuffle. I am Flying Ryan Gosich, who did not get stabbed over the weekend, along with
Tampa Motormouth, Joel Rural, and of course, unless you have been living under a rock or hello, Rocket, yes, you know that we are definitely talking about the absolutely insane whole bunch of events that have led to the arrest of former Jets quarterback Mark Sanchez, who the Jets cannot win on the field, nor can they win off the field. So, Flying, what the bleep happened?
that is the question now, isn't it? Mark Sanchez in town in Indianapolis to call the Raiders Colts game that we'll recap here in a little while, because of course we're doing our recaps today. At first, it comes out, hey, Mark Sanchez got stabbed in Indianapolis. And you go, oh no, what happened to Mark Sanchez? What a terrible tragedy. Who would do such a thing? And then you get a notification. And mind you, this is happening on Saturday, the night before the game. I'm actually at Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando, Florida, in a theme park getting these updates with other people. We're all going, are you kidding me? How do you get arrested while in the hospital for being stabbed? So you wait to hear all the details, and it turns out he was partaking in drinks that are not water, alcoholic adult beverages, had several, probably dozen more than he should have, decided he wanted to take it amongst himself to have a grease trap cleaning truck.
Yeah, because originally
Moved from the
everybody was
loading
thinking
dock.
like it was like an Uber Eats or a
Yeah.
DoorDash thing.
He wants to move this truck because somebody told him it needed to move.
The manager told him.
The manager.
The manager.
And this poor 69-year-old guy working, poor guy should be retired. He will be after this event. He's telling Mark Sanchez, no, I'm supposed to be here. I'm cleaning the grease traps out of the kitchen of this establishment. Mark Sanchez then illegally enters the vehicle.
Which
The
is
driver tells him,
already a charge.
yeah, it's a crime there. He is told, get out of my truck. Then he charges the man, throws him against a dumpster. That's an assault, and I know in some states, assaulting somebody over a certain age and being a senior citizen, that's a more egregious offense. I believe Florida is one of those states. Then the man pepper sprays Mark Sanchez with no effect. Mark Sanchez is now just coming at him, bloodshot eyes, because he's drunk and pepper sprayed, has no feeling of any of it. The man thinks, oh, he's going to kill me, pulls out a knife, stabs him a couple times, pushes him away, comes back, gets one more in, and then Mark Sanchez runs away down the alley, does not have any recollection of the incident, which means he had a few dozen more drinks than he probably should have. I've never been, I'll admit, I went to college, I went to USF. There were nights that drinking did occur, and there were nights that there was too much drinking that occurred. I have never been so drunk I forgot how I got stabbed. I'm pretty sure if I got stabbed, it would be a sobering moment enough to be like, maybe I'm doing something I shouldn't do with my life.
You would make a point of trying to remember how it happened.
Mark Sanchez just goes, I don't remember getting stabbed. I was over there trying to move a truck, and then I got stabbed. So yeah, treated for stab wounds. The 69-year-old man not arrested, not charged.
Who is now suing Sanchez and Fox Sports.
Absolutely. I don't know how he's not going to win against Fox Sports, but he'll win against Sanchez. But yeah, not arrested, not charged, and apparently there's video of the incident because it was in downtown Indianapolis, where there are more cameras than some other places in the city and the state of Indiana. And the video very much goes in line with what the victim, the 69-year-old truck driver, said occurred. Mark Sanchez, I don't know if it's been official. He does not call the game on Sunday, obviously, because he's in the hospital with the stab wounds and all. and I don't think it's been announced, or at least it hasn't been pushed out through Sleeper like the first notifications. Likely, at the very least, suspended from Fox Sports in the interim while he
Yeah, 'cause it
recovers
was
and
a
everything
misdemeanor,
plays
now
out.
it's a felony.
Yeah, one of the counts was upgraded to a felony. Ugh, not a good situation for
Like
the butt fumbler.
1 to 6 years in prison, I think.
Yeah, 1 to 6 years on that charge alone. There are also the couple misdemeanors that, again, we haven't heard as much about the story since, other than the crazy story coming out. The charges are going to be what the charges are. They're not going to come out and say, "Oh, his second misdemeanor is up." They're not going to do that. So,
You understand why Urinating Tree named his video, "What the hell, Mark Sanchez?"
yeah, Mark Sanchez, best known for the butt fumble, has done something dumber than running into his offensive lineman's butt and fumbling the ball in a form of ass play that we are not going to get into. So Mark
Heyo.
Sanchez, yeah, he
Yes, as we have learned from the other week, yours truly, phrasing is very important.
yeah, yes, that is a play on a Freudian slip of Joel's last week talking about the Titans in Arizona.
Hmm.
And I'll say this, when we get to that game, I think playing like ass and ass play all kind of apply to that game. But we'll get to that one in a little bit. But yeah, Mark Sanchez, I think he might just have lost his mind in career.
Yeah, mind, job, profession, reputation, everything.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the Mark Sanchez situation and story. What happens from here, I don't know. Hopefully he recovers and goes and serves his time like any normal person would. But unfortunately, it seems a lot of the time when people with money and clout get in trouble,
Yeah,
it
we've seen
finds a way to disappear.
Rasheed Rice, for example.
Yeah, Rasheed Rice, one more game suspended, and then he will be back for the Chiefs in week number 7. Yeah.
Can may I have an
Oh,
interlude? May I have a brief hockey interlude fly in?
yes, of course.
As
It
as
is opening night.
as there was a certain game between the Lightning and the Panthers that happened recently. Credit the Freeze the Puck hockey page on Facebook. How about all of this? Tampa Bay through the game, packed the roster with AHL players tasked to fight the Panthers, 64 penalties, 322 penalty minutes, Ryan,
Yeah.
16 players ejected, and a Panthers goal taken back after determining somehow the player previously ejected somehow returned to the ice and got an assist.
Yeah, 320 plus minutes. That's over 5 hours of penalty time in a 60-minute game. I didn't see this game because it's preseason and nobody in the right
Yeah,
mind watches
nor did
preseason.
I, but when you heard about this, you're like, "Holy effing
Highlights, you go, oh, so it was just a hit by the Lightning against their in-state rivals, the two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. They want to send a message. Florida is notoriously one of the more physically dominating teams in the NHL. Of course, with Marchand coming, it didn't calm them down, even though it did help them win a second consecutive Stanley Cup. Lightning said, "We're not risking our star players, but we're going to send a message with a bunch of goons from our minor leagues."
theme
And
theme for
yeah,
this theme song from this game should have been 3-6 Mafia. It's a fight."
yeah, it was definitely not the best exhibition for hockey, but if you are a hockey fan, you probably enjoyed watching it because you don't see as much the crazy on ice fight and violence that you used to, like going back to the 90s Red Wings Avalanche style games. But hockey season is back. I think the Lightning and Panthers have very high hopes. The Sharks, my Sharks, maybe less so, but they're on the up and up at the very least. And
And John Cooper specifically and the Lightning were both fined by
yes,
the NHL.
yeah, and there were a couple suspensions as well for the Lightning, but no penalties to the Panthers because they were basically inflicted upon more than they inflicted back on the Lightning. But yeah, hockey is back, and there will probably be no game this season with more penalty minutes than that preseason game, which I think is a good thing. But
Since we're
some
getting
casual fans
closer
maybe not.
since we're getting closer to the time on Sports Talk Radio, excuse me, that you will be hearing ad nauseum the term sports equinox as much as you heard about the supermoon, perhaps on numerous sports broadcasts recently. But yeah, and then as we click back to football, unless of course there's anything else you want to talk about the
Nope.
hockey kerfuffle.
No, I'm good on that one.
Yeah, as I know you have a whole bunch of games going on in baseball, but it's just sort of like, the Rays didn't once again make. So I'm paying attention to what's kind
New
of going
ownership.
on.
New ownership for the Rays. I mean,
I
that's
know.
good news. They came out today, said they're committed to Tampa Bay. They want to build on the legacy that Stu Sternberg and his ownership created, even if it was in spite of his actions. They want a winner, and they
Well,
want someone that's
splitting
dedicated to this
the race
community.
schedule between two freaking cities. Other than that,
Yeah, I mean, as Rays fans, we're happy that the team is going to stay in the greater Tampa Bay area, whether or not it's going to be in St. Pete, Ybor City, which is right outside of the downtown Tampa area, closer to Raymond James, or even somewhere like Brandon, which is on the east side of the bay. They're going to keep it somewhat in the Bay. They're going to keep it in the Bay Area, which is what we wanted as Rays fans. I do think St. Pete is not the right location for it. I think the attendance problems have always been because the Tropicana Field is in legitimately one of the worst areas of St. Petersburg as well. I mean, you can go back and look at the gas plant district, as I have to catch my words, and the whole story behind the building of Tropicana Field. It's not a great story, and that area never really embraced it because it was, long story short, marginalized community. Team comes in, kicks people out, builds a stadium, doesn't improve the community around it. Nobody wants to go to the games as part of the location in St. Pete being farther than most of the population of Tampa, because Tampa's where most of the people live. St. Pete's got a smaller population. Then the area is a little bit of a seedy area. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they find. Their goal is to open the new stadium by opening day of 2029. Tropicana Field is in place to host baseball games again next year. The Trop has their roof partially back on at the very least, if not mostly. They're going to get a new video board for the last couple of years. I think there's still 3 years left on the lease that they have to play at Tropicana Field, and they're going to honor that contract before leaving.
do you have any horses, or are you just sort of generally kind of paying attention to the playoffs, or not really
I
paying?
haven't been paying as much attention because between football and fantasy football, I have 15 fantasy football teams this year, which is a personal high. And for what it's worth, this week was a 16-3 week, and you might be like 15. And you said 16-3. Four of those leagues have play against the median score, which it just compensates for. Oh, I was the second highest scoring team and I lost. Um, but anyways, I guess if I'm rooting for anybody, it would be a team like Seattle
Or the
or a
Brewers?
team like the Brewers or even the Blue Jays that just haven't won it in a
Just
while.
so you don't
They've
have
won in
the
the past.
you have the usual suspects again.
Yeah, I don't want to see the Dodgers. I don't want to see the Yankees. Um, the Cubs, I mean, you always kind of root for the Cubs, even though the last time the Cubs won was 2016. I think you make the argument that they broke the space time continuum by doing so, because we've been on the darkest timeline since then as a planet. I don't know if
You
it's the
you
Cubs'
remember
fault, but
the
it sure
you
lines up.
you remember the, Back to the Future 2 reference when Marty McFly goes to the future and sees the Cubs winning the World Series and
I
gets the whole idea to bet on the
I I
game.
I think my favorite pop culture reference that called the Cubs winning the World Series was a Parks and Recs in I think it was the series finale. They jump ahead in people's lives and catch up with them. And somebody is in Chicago in 2017. They're explaining, "Oh yeah, everybody's really happy since the Cubs just won the World Series." And the episode aired in like 2010. So it was like, wow, wow, you even got the year right. Good job. But yeah, I guess I'm rooting for the Mariners. They've never won it, and then the Brewers. I think that would be the final I want is Brewers Mariners. Brewers right now leading their series 2-0. The Tigers and Mariners tied 2-2. Toronto leads 2-1 over the Yankees, and the Dodgers 2-0 over the Phillies as of right now.
And as we click back to the football continuum, there was a definite little bit of a scoring adjustment for teams rostering the Tennessee or Arizona defenses. And I'm sure this was not only Yahoo, but other platforms as well. There was an adjustment for the play that I'm sure Ryan will be talking about when we get to the game. That was a interception, fumble, and recovery for a touchdown. Tennessee defense will be credited with the TD. Arizona defense will be charged with 16 points allowed instead of 22. Lockett is not, unfortunately, credited with an offensive TD, which you
But but
probably needed.
but the Cardinals defense is the one that gave up the touchdown. Okay, that's dumb.
Well, yeah, I know. When we get to that game, as I'm sure we have a certain player who all of a sudden Adonai Mitchell is like, "Hey, it wasn't me this
Hey,
week. It wasn't me.
hey,
It was
hey!
them.
It's
It
not
was
just me.
somebody else.
Yeah.
It was somebody else. That wasn't me." But just to toss off a few before we get into the recaps, got to talk a little hot seat. Got to talk a little hot seat. Do you think Cards Gannon with as many walk off losses as they had?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The first team in NFL history to lose 3 straight games on 3 straight walk-off field goals, and I believe 2 of those blowing big leads late. And this one to Tennessee, I heard people say this was the most embarrassing loss in NFL history, and this is coming the same day the Dolphins blew a 17-point lead to the Panthers, and it made me feel better about my team watching it happen to the Cardinals against the Titans of all teams.
Oof.
Um, he's 100% on the hot seat. And while I brought up Miami, Mike McDaniel,
Even
I
though
said when he lost that was a fireable offense. He hasn't been fired yet. We'll see.
even when Stephen Ross said that he is going to have patience with his coach.
Okay, patience. I mean, we're going to be stuck running it with the same team next year. We're stuck into a contract. They're not going to get rid of Mike McDaniel. They don't want to do what the Bears do: get a quarterback, then get a head coach, have it not work out, then get a new quarterback for a year, then fire the coach. I think they want to clean house at one time. So they're probably going to be stuck with him. But yeah, those two are definitely on the hot seat. Any other names you wanted to call out?
Definitely Dable.
Um,
Maybe not. If Dart works
see,
out.
I think if Dart works out, and they have the hardest schedule in football, by the way. If they end up 5-12, 6-11, and Dart looks good, you've lost Malik Neighbors. I think they know Dable is a good coach, and the situation and some players have not worked out how they needed to. There's been injuries at the wrong time. I think he's perennially on the hot seat being in New York. I would say Aaron Glenn's quickly becoming on the hot seat for the Jets, being the only winless team. Um, and then, of course, the head coach for Tennessee, I think he's also perennially on the
Oh,
hot
yeah,
seat at this point.
yeah, Brian Callahan.
Yeah, Brian Callahan.
The one he's that are still asked. Pete Carroll.
No, Pete Carroll's too much of a legendary good coach. Geno Smith is playing terrible football right now. If they can get him in line, this team will turn around. They're also in a very, very tough division. So yeah,
And
it's a tough one. I don't see him firing Pete Carroll.
I know he was just hired, but Glenn is having a rough start.
Yeah, 0-5. That's going to be a tough one.
And one final name that probably you never thought would come up. How about John Harbaugh?
I don't think so. I think he's got too much goodwill. You've got a badly injured team. I would like to say defense, offense. It's everybody. I mean, really, that whole roster is in the injury tent at all times at this point. He's been too good of a coach. He's been there for 17 or 18 years now. You've lost Lamar Jackson. You've lost your entire defense. You've lost offensive linemen. You've lost pretty much somebody from every position other than running back and wide receiver right now. There's talks that Snoop Huntley and Tyler Huntley is going to be the quarterback this week, so no more Cooper Rush because he was that bad against Houston. I don't think he's on the hot seat. Now, if they continue to fall off and they quit on this team as a result, maybe, but I don't see it happening either.
And shall we open up week 5? I think we already talked about the Thursday game, so we can move to Sunday, right?
Yeah, well, let's go over a couple injury updates. Ricky Pearsall not expected to play against the Buccaneers. George Kittle not going to play, it sounds like, against the Buccaneers. Has a chance to return in week 7 per Kyle Shanahan. We didn't talk about a trade that happened. We'll come back to that one about Joe Flacco here in a little bit.
Little wacko there.
Yeah, Giants running back Tyrone Tracy has no injury designation and is good to go for Thursday night, a game we will talk about later. And that might have been the biggest of it. Of course, I'm going back and getting all the updates over the weekend as well.
Thank God after, every week it's just like, "Oh, yay! Omarion Hampton's gonna be out for a while.
Marion
I'm
Hampton
excited.
on the IR. On the IR. He is out for 4 weeks. Sounds like it's only going to be the 4 weeks.
Yay!" Finally, after getting things going and you're all pumped up, you're all excited. You weren't happy because it was, because Najee Harris was done for this season, but then now Hampton is injured for a while. Oy.
Yeah. Jaguars tight end Brenton Strange also to IR off the Monday night game. And I believe that is all I've got. So, yeah, let's go to last week's recap. Not a good week for picks, really, for either
Oh,
one
boy.
of
I
us,
think I
but
think I had 4 right, maybe.
I have you with five.
Oh,
5-9 for Joel. You got Minnesota,
I
Indianapolis,
said you were
Dallas,
you have
Detroit, and
weeks.
Buffalo. Oh, no, wait, we didn't get Buffalo right. That's right. No, you did get four. My numbers are wrong. Let me fix that.
I
Um,
had weeks that you think you're Nostradamus, then anything but. Oh, boy.
yeah, that's a bad week. The numbers behind me are not correct. So let me update these real quick. As Joel went 4-10, and I went 7-7. The
Mm.
margin is a 7-game swing. I am 52-25-1 with the tie. Joel is 45-32-1 through
One of the
five
very few
weeks.
weeks where you've had upsets in every single primetime game.
Yeah, the hot. Well, I had the Jacksonville one. I didn't have the Buffalo or the San Francisco one, but yeah, 7-7. I think we can say the hot start is dead. Even though last week it was a tough week of pick'em. I know I do the pick'em in the Tom Grassi Posse group on ESPN. I'm 17th, and I actually went up in the standings last week because that's how rough the picks were to make and get right.
I think I heard that 70% of the folks in the Circus Survivor were bounced out this week.
That makes sense. Tough week for Survivor. I mean, if you took, I mean, a lot of people would have taken the Dolphins over the Panthers. I think there's a lot of people that would have taken the Eagles over the Broncos. Could have been popular. The Cardinals over the Titans for sure. There are definitely some people that lost out on the Bills, Patriots, and Chiefs, Jags, but those I think were more realistic. Anyways, let's go to the games. Let's talk about them. The London game of the week, the Vikings win 21-17. Dylan Gabriel looks decent in his first start. Quinshon Judkins absolutely looks like the guy that they were hoping when they drafted him. The Browns, Dylan Gabriel, if he's a thing, this defense is legitimate. They're still alive in this division because the division is just terrible. Baltimore's fallen off a cliff. The Bengals getting Joe Flacco, the trade we hadn't talked about yet. He is expected to start against Green Bay. I don't know if this is a good move overall, but they had to do something. I would rather see him go out and get a Kirk Cousins or a Jameis Winston, someone that you might have at least a little hope that's going to be entertaining. But they go with Joe Flacco, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, because Vikings 1-1 in international games. Browns played hard, but Vikings survive. As you mentioned, he's the real deal. I mean, it's just the one game for the brand new, spanking new quarterback from the Browns, but pretty decent debut even in the loss. And kind of crazy, you actually had a camera wire apparently blocked a Vikings field goal, but
Mhm.
nobody knew about, so it wasn't reviewed. And probably glad that that did not determine the final score of the game, 21-17, and Vikings get a much needed win, especially after Steelers BS football beat them last week.
Yeah, Vikings move to 3-2. The Browns fall to 1-4.
Wait.
And we move on. Speaking of 1-4, the Ravens 1-4 after getting blasted by the Houston Texans 44-10. CJ Stroud, a QB1 on the week, which is something we haven't seen or said since his rookie year that he was even in that range of outcomes. Nico Collins looked very good. Hutchinson with 2 touchdowns in this one. Derrick Henry looked awful. Did get a garbage time touchdown, but this offense couldn't do anything. The defense couldn't do anything. The Ravens are just a badly, badly, badly injured team. It's not going to get much better. Fortunately, they have the bye in week number 8, or sorry, week number 7, because I believe Well, let me double check. I think it's week number 7. They need to get healthy, and they need to get healthy very, very quickly, because if they don't, this is going to get a season fully away from them.
Yeah, it's hard seeing the Ravens not going 1-5, uncharted
Yeah,
territory
week
for
7.
for
Week 7
them.
bye.
Hmm?
Week 7 bye for the Ravens. So no Lamar Jackson in week 6. He's going to have an extra week to heal up. So hopefully in week 8 they'll be healthy and able to play.
Yeah, they're just you have had the return of C.J. Stroud, who apparently like to borrow bathrobes, and yeah, apparently the Ravens they're just in a bad place and they keep falling
Yeah.
further and further down the abyss.
Yeah, Texans improved to 2-3. They are still a couple games behind the Colts, but they are showing signs of life, which is good for the Texans. Speaking of showing signs of life, that was the Dolphins in the first quarter, and then the Panthers in the second half, because the Dolphins get out very early to a 17-0 lead. Waddle and Waller look fantastic, and then it all goes wrong as Rico Dowdle takes over 200 yards rushing for the Carolina Panthers in release of an injured Chuba Hubbard. The Dolphins lose 27-24 to fall to 1-4. The Panthers go up to 2-3.
As just LOL to the Dolphins. You wonder why the Dolphins fan is crying in the pool like in Grossi videos again. Yeah, was joined this week by the Cardinals fan
Yeah, it's not a group I want to be a part of.
as just
Cardinals fans.
17-point lead. Just you saw that and you're like, okay, Dolphins doing good. And
Yeah.
you mentioned Waddle all of a sudden not having Tyreek there. You were wondering if that was going to up his value. Waller just carrying over the good performance from the previous week to a having targets. And then just what the hell happened as the Panthers out of nowhere, and I think McDaniels gets closer and closer to being gone, whether it's this year, whether it's next year. And Panthers were pumped. You were liking Rico Dottle getting the most deserved game ball, and he's got to be foaming at the mouth with Dallas looming for him, and a little bit of vengeance maybe coming, but Dolphin, you have the Cardinals embarrassing themselves. You have the Dolphins embarrassing themselves. I mean, just you had Tua out there who had, if you saw the Tua quote about whether it's a win, whether it's a loss, he doesn't really pay attention to social media, and he goes home to his kids, and that's what's most important. And I'm summarizing, but he really doesn't do the social media thing.
Yeah, and while it's probably a good idea to not be on social media as much as really anybody is, but especially a high profile athlete with brain damage like Tua, you don't want your starting quarterback to say, it doesn't matter if it's a win or a loss, I get to go home to my kids and that's what matters. That's not the spirit and mentality you really want. I understand that's probably the healthy mentality for most people when they're talking about their jobs. I don't care how the day goes, at least I can go home to my family. When you're a professional athlete, you have to care a lot more about the wins and losses than it seems like he does.
Well,
Um,
what he was saying was, if it's a win or if it's a loss, I still go home to my kids.
yeah. And you want the losses to sting at least a little bit. You want your quarterback to pretend the losses sting a little bit. I think it goes down to a lack of competitiveness with Tua. Um, I just don't think he's the guy. I haven't thought he was the guy since we drafted him, and he's kind of proving it more and more this year as we go along. The Panthers, we'll see about Rico Dowdle's true revenge potential. Chuba Hubbard, if he plays, it might be limited, but if not, I kind of expect Dowdle to have a repeat performance against Dallas next week. Moving on, 40-6 Colts over the Raiders. Jonathan
Mm.
Taylor, he's very, very good at football. If you got him in fantasy, you're having a very good time, as well as if you had Daniel Jones, who led my sports shuffle team to their first win of the season. Yay. It's been bad over there. It always is, though, for whatever reason. The Raiders look inept. They look lost. Ashton Genty looks like the only good player on the roster for the most part. Brock Bowers going to miss some time with that knee injury. Bone bruise could get worse if he plays on it. But the Colts look very much like a legitimate team. They are pounding bad teams and they're beating good ones. They're hanging tough with good teams. Colts at 4-1. Daniel Jones, I think you have to start feeling like this is the Sam Darnold experience from last year where maybe you don't believe he is what he's playing like, but for this season, it seems like it's going to keep rolling.
And how about an AR-15 sighting there flying, checking in for a little bit of garbage time and even catching his own pass?
Yeah, the quarterback, not the weapon.
Yeah.
We're saying because Indianapolis, someone got stabbed over the weekend, so we want to make sure there's only one story about a weapon in Indianapolis this weekend.
Yes, that's Anthony Richardson nickname,
Yeah,
AR-15.
I know, but yeah, garbage time definitely hit for the Colts. They dominated this game from start to finish, and the Raiders look very very bad. Colts though four and
Yes,
one right now, the first place team in the conference.
if you're kinda wondering, you're wondering out there why Amari Cooper retired. This is probably why, and, a little bit of a fantasy fallout, if I can.
Hmm.
I knew that when, one of the teams, as I survived another week in the Guillotine League, and I knew one of the players I saw that was available from the team that had just been eliminated was Ashton Genty, and I'm like, I'm not going to go after him because that is probably the most highest value, sexiest target that's out there. And I remember I even put out I think like a $50 bid for like Cortland Sutton, and somebody outbid me by $1.
Hmm.
So I was like, so I think I ended up getting in that league Haskins as a result of the whole Marion Hampton fallout kind of thing. But I figured, people are going to be bidding like freaking crazy for Genty.
Yeah, and he hasn't been great. He had that one monster game, but he's been good, not great. People are going to break the bank in those guillotine leagues. What you get $1,000 for the season,
Yes, and
and you can bid whatever you want on whoever gets cut. Obviously, there's normal waivers, but anytime a team is eliminated, their entire team goes to the free agency list, and yeah, you can bid what you want. So if you bid 300 or 400 on Genty, and he's bad, you really hurt yourself. So
oof,
it's an interesting strategy to play that. I might be doing one of those next year because I have
yeah,
no one this year.
because it's like it's kind of crazy in normal fantasy when you get somebody and you spend fab on and then they go onto the IR for like 8 to 12 weeks, and you're like, wah, wah.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Next up, Saints get their first win 26-14 over the New York Giants. Both teams not very good, but the Saints at home have been much more competitive than we expected. They get their first win of the season. The Giants falling to 1-4 after the win against the Chargers. I think it's a disappointment, but Jackson Dart's still a rookie, still with some upside. No Malik Neighbors. They're going to have to figure this out. The reward for losing to the Saints is a home game against Philadelphia and their old friend Saquon Barkley for the Saints. Moving to 1-4, I think we think the Saints are better than we expect them to be, even though they're only 1-4. Because I think, at least for me, I thought they were going to be drilled almost every single week, like they were against Seattle. And every other week they've been pretty competitive. So good on the Saints for getting off the no-win bandwagon. Only one team left in there. We'll talk about them in a second. But the Giants and Saints both both moving to 1-4. Really bad teams here.
Yeah, and if you have any shares of Alvin Kamara, you might want to pay attention. Did not practice, might be having a little bit of an issue, so it might be a little Miller time this week. So you might want to keep your eyes peeled.
It is Wednesday. A lot of vets sit on Wednesday, so don't get too alarmed. But also, you want to keep an eye on him because, one, he's an older player. They take longer to recover. Two, there's a lot of smoke around the possibility of an Alvin Kamara trade, letting Kendre Miller being the number one down the line. I don't know if that's going to happen, but if he gets traded, Kendre Miller's going to be very, very good. Not a bad idea to stash him in some place if you got the bench space and you don't need a player right away. Moving on to the only winless team in the NFL, the New York Jets. They lose to the Cowboys in a game that wasn't
And
close to the final
suffering.
score. The final score makes it look a lot better. It was 37-22,
It
but I think it
was
was
a bad game. You even had Brees Hall having a fumble that you just saw all of the fight fall out of the Jets offense.
yeah, a lot of garbage time in this one. Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson getting healthy at the end, but this game was 30-6. Not a very good game for the Jets. The Cowboys, Pickens, Javonte Williams, Jake Ferguson, big fantasy games, as well as Dak Prescott, who looks absolutely phenomenal this year. The Cowboys moved to 2-2-1, After a very slow start, this team's starting to look pretty good on the offensive side of the ball. If that defense can get it together, they looked pretty good for the most part of this game. Again, garbage time made the score a lot closer than it really was. The Cowboys could be a sneaky wild card contender.
Yeah, Jets are bad. Cowboys feast. Who needs Lamb? How about those Aaron Glenn decisions to win aren't exactly working out too well for the Jets right now?
No,
And
I don't know how long he's going to last if they keep losing games.
George Pickens never had more than 5 touchdowns in any of his 3 seasons with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He already has 5 touchdowns in just 5 games with the Cowboys. And your stat of the day for the Cowboys in games where Jerry Jones flips off the other team fan base and it gets on video. The Cowboys are now 1-0.
Yeah. George Pickens was amped up pretty much from the time he was traded because he was a great deep ball threat. Dak was a great deep ball thrower, and it's coming to fruition exactly as we hoped. Obviously, no CeeDee Lamb means he's getting more targets than he likely will when CeeDee Lamb comes back. Could be this week, probably won't, but if not, it's on the horizon. But I think he's still going to be a good fantasy asset even when CeeDee Lamb comes back. Next up, another upset I actually had this week. There were a lot of them. The Broncos coming back from 17-3 down to beat the Philadelphia Eagles 21-17. I know about 3/4 of the way through this game, I said I should never pick against the Eagles. It's only going to hurt me. And then the Broncos looked like the best team in football for a quarter. Coming back, J.K. Dobbins, Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton. Defense turned it up,
Time
and
to
they
believe
got it.
again.
Yeah, 21-17 moves them to 3-2. Eagles falling from the ranks of the unbeaten, down to 4-1.
Hallelujah.
And the offense continues to look bad. That was the whole reason for me picking against them is the Broncos defense and a bad Philadelphia offense. It's not a good combination. They got out early. They couldn't sustain it. That's what we've seen all year. Saquon Barkley, 6 carries. I don't know if that was part of the game plan or it was just to shut AJ Brown and Devonta Smith up. But you got to give Saquon the ball on the ground more than 6 times. He was arguably the MVP last season. I know that doesn't go to anybody but other than a quarterback, but you could have made the case he was the actual MVP of the NFL last year. 6 carries against a good defense, not a good look for the Eagles.
As everybody flying is Mark Safe from Fly Eagles Fly this week.
Yep. Next up, we get to the game of the week. If you enjoy the circus. The Clowns are out. The Clowns are playing as the Titans win 22-21 over the Cardinals. The Cardinals do it again. They get up to a big 21-3 lead, and then they let it slip all the way back. Kyler Murray left with a foot injury after he got hit in the face with a snap. Yeah, that's a real thing that happened. That wasn't even the most embarrassing play of the day for the Cardinals.
I'm going to be starting Penix this week in my Kyler Murray team.
Yeah, Kyler Murray, keep an eye on his condition. If he plays, then you're going to play him over Penix. But Penix has been really hot or really cold, so I don't know what to expect there.
He's had a bye week, so after everyone is debating if it's Bijan or whichever way you say his name.
Yeah. The Cardinals get an interception of Cam Ward up by 9, then fumble it, kick it into their own end zone where Tyler Lockett recovers, which is somehow a defensive touchdown for
needs to be like playing in the background.
Yeah. They win it on the last second field goal. It was one of the most embarrassing displays in the fourth quarter. If you are a fan of fantasy footballers and have not heard the first 5 minutes of Monday's show, go back and listen to it. If you didn't see this game, that'll give you a pretty good summary as they melt down. They're all from Arizona and Cardinals fans, so their vested interest brings out the worst pain that you can. Cardinals still somehow 2-3. The Titans get their first win of the season.
The fantasy footballers, I believe.
Yes, I am. The Titans get their first win, leaving the Jets as the only winless team in the NFL. The Cardinals, though, embarrassing themselves once again. And it's looking like a bad season for the Cardinals is setting up.
Yeah, I forget which one of the fantasy footballers is trying to figure out if they would be better off as a fan of another team.
Yeah, I will say this as a Dolphins fan right now. You look at Jacksonville, you look at Tampa, and go, I'd be probably a little happier right now rooting for the
Well,
red and pewter or the teal and yellow.
you you have the three dragons meme, or the current state of Florida football. The two fierce dragons, Jacksonville, Tampa, the derpy one, Miami.
Yeah, it's accurate.
But with this game, you just have to also toss out a name. Filed under it wasn't me this week, as I mentioned, and Mitchell, of course, last week. This week
Yeah.
it was one Amari DiMarcado,
And see,
who
here's the thing: we talked about AD Mitchell fumbling the ball as he tried to extend out to celebrate, and he was just going to hold it in the air as he went in. Amari DiMercado just said, "I don't want this anymore. I don't want to play with you anymore." The Toy Story meme dropping Woody on the floor. That was what he did with his ball, and it's just on a 76-yard run that would have been a touchdown that would have sealed the game. He just went, "I don't want to play with you anymore. Bye," and then they lost
and then you had Gannon, who, of course, in a very visual display, went
fined
over
$100,000 too.
to DiMarcado, apparently bumped him, chewed him out royally. I think royally deserved when you have a player do something that inanely stupid that literally cost you the game. I think as the head coach, you have a right to chew them out.
Yeah, but you don't have the right to punch him, and
Okay,
that's what also what he
punch him,
did, and that's where he got
punch
fined.
him? No. Chew them out? Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, moving on to the actual game of the week, the
Oh, the one that
Tampa Bay
I cannot
Buccaneers.
believe that I picked the Seahawks. I was
We
very
both did.
glad to be wrong.
Yeah, we both picked the Seahawks, and honestly, it was a good pick. Close game, last second field goal wins it for the Bucks.
So,
38-35.
can you imagine, fine, a super flex league where somebody started Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold in that week? Oh my god.
Yeah. Emeka Egbuka, or Amika Egbukba, as the
Oh,
Gronkowski
well,
household
yeah,
knows him.
yeah. I
He is
uh,
legitimately becoming a great wide receiver in the NFL already. Only 5 games in, I think he's stamped himself
Gronk is a
as
Super Bowl winning tight end, multiple. So
yeah, he's got some brain damage as well. Uh, but
I think the quip was, it's bad when Terry Bradshaw has to correct you.
yeah, Emeka Egbuka is how you pronounce his name. Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, that's good.
Igbagbu or whatever.
That's good. Sports literally had it as the ongoing soundbite throughout their entire video.
Yeah, it's a great soundbite, and it doesn't get less funny the more you hear it, which is unique. But the Bucks 38-35 win. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Darnold, and Ikbuka. I mean, pretty even Houghton had a good game. Baker Mayfield, Rashad White was good. It was a pretty just good game
Sterling
all
Sharp even
around.
was cited.
AJ Barner with 2 touchdowns at tight end. Like, it was a good game. I think we'd all like to see this one again in the playoffs, and it's very possible with these two teams as the Bucks go to 4-1, Seahawks fall to 3-2 in a no shame loss for whoever came out on the wrong side of this one. Emeki Egbuba, Babu, whatever it was.
Yeah, as I said, I'm happy that to be wrong with the picks. 38 freaking points. This team is that it just sucked that somebody had to lose the game because that was a masterpiece. That was the one you're going, they're scoring how much? What's the score? And just, Bucks are first team in NFL history with 4 wins by 3 points and fewer in first 5 games. The franchise record for the entire season for wins by 3 points or fewer is 5 in 2010.
Yeah, I think the Bucks have a good chance of breaking that one.
And one more stat, Baker Mayfield now has many game-winning drives this season 4 as the Browns have total wins since 2024.
Just remember, they didn't want Baker Mayfield in Cleveland and chose to go down the path that they've chosen.
And since 2024, Baker Mayfield, the quarterback, has 54 total touchdowns, while the Browns, the organization, have 37, last in the NFL.
Oh, that's a rough stat. Next up, Lions win 37-24 over the Bengals. Bengals fall to 2-3. Jake Browning going to go to the bench for Joe Flacco next week. Hopefully we see good things out of this team going forward, but I don't see it getting any better. Jamar Chase, though, 2 touchdowns. You like seeing that for fantasy. But the Lions, predictably, understandably, and expectedly, pounded on the Bengals. The final score makes it look closer. A little bit of
We need
garbage time
another
there.
LY after that one.
Yeah. Again, this is one of those, unless it was Jameson Williams for the Lions, you were pretty happy with anybody on the fantasy side of things.
Yeah, as a Williamson owner. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I've got a lot of him, and he's not helping things. But
Mm-mm.
yeah, it's not great. But anybody else on the Lions has been very good. Montgomery, a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. Jameer Gibbs with a receiving touchdown in this one. It was pretty much just a good game all around if you had the Lions. The Bengals, though, we'll see what happens with Flacco. They go against the Packers next week. I don't think a statue behind a bad offensive line is going to make things better, but the age experience could be better than Browning, who's making too many mistakes.
Yeah, at least the Bengals got up past the single digits, and Jamar Chase is back and even had 3 tackles as a bonus.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Jamar Chase, you're very happy with this game. You hope it continues with Flacco. Next up, the Commanders' 27-10 win over the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers got up to a 10-0 lead, and then Commanders just took over this game. Jaden Daniels was exceptional. Deebo Samuel looks revitalized for the Commanders this season. It's been tough for the Chargers the last couple of weeks. Lab McConkey with a touchdown, but Quentin Johnson stepping back a little bit. Of course, the loss of Marion Hampton is not good. Bill Krosky has arisen, dominating this week in the backfield for the Commanders. Looks like his breakout and assertion over that role has come to fruition. But the Commanders, they're supposed to optimistically get Terry McLaurin back this week. This could be a team that's ready to roll as they play the Bears next week.
Yeah, the Chargers are in a tough place, not as tough as Ravens, but still.
Yeah, I mean, at least the Chargers started 3-0. They've got 3 wins in the division. They still have a good cushion over those teams with those 3 divisional wins, but they do have to get things going the right way, and it's going to be tough with the running back situation being what it is. Next up, the Bills lose to the Patriots, meaning the last undefeated team has fallen. And only 5 weeks in, it seems very early to be out of undefeated teams as the Patriots win 23-20. Patriots are 3-2. The Bills are now 4-1, so there's a little bit of competition at the top and the bottom of the AFC East. Unfortunately for the Dolphins and Jets, that's not a competition you want to be a part of. But the Bills losing at home in those white jerseys that looked a lot better on the screen, on the computer, or on your phone when you saw them than they did on the field, in my opinion. They look like the old Raiders jerseys with the silver numbers and the white. It's just not.
Mhm.
It didn't look like, it looked good in the pictures. It didn't look good on the field. And that happens sometimes. But the Patriots, Drake May, good game, even though he didn't have a big fantasy game. Stephon Diggs, he is back to what we expected out of Stephon Diggs, it looks like. So that is good news. James Cook letting you down, though, this week. His first bust of the season. Anything to add on this one, Joel?
Oh, with the Bills, sorry you cut out, so I had to do a technology thing there. But yeah, with the Bills, just I think the Pats absolutely shocked the Bills as they get above 500, and the Bills their first loss of 2025, and they're saying to the Ravens, see, you can beat the Bills at home, and you just have to know that some folks out there are now bringing this up, and question is whether or not it's legit that the Bills' first 4 wins this season have come against opponents with a combined 3-17 record. Ravens 1-4, Jets 0-5, your Fish 1-4, and the Saints 1-4. And
Yeah.
Diggs definitely enjoyed besting his former team, and he was surprisingly humble. But we'll have to see if the Bills, because the Ravens haven't responded back when the Bills humbled them. Now that somebody's humbled the Bills, can they bounce back?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Bills do recover. When they play more good teams down the line, their schedule does get more difficult than it has been.
Mm.
I don't want to say the Bills are a paper tiger like the Dolphins when they were beating bad teams and losing all the good ones, but this might be one of those really chaotic seasons where what you expected, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens in the AFC, the Eagles and the Rams and the 49ers and some other teams in the NFC, the Bucks look real. They might not be what we're expecting. This could be one of those years where it's like you got four teams coming out of nowhere to be in the championship games, and that makes the season fun. And I think the Monday Night Football game kind of shows exactly what
And
that looks like.
one more thing on the Sunday Night
Yeah.
Football is it's definitely not about the game itself, but how about with everything falling apart in North Carolina after the Bill Belichick experiment is exactly, I think, what you would call working out there, flying. How about according to sources inside the UNC football program, it is a directive from the staff, in parentheses Bill Belichick, to not tweet or retweet anything Patriots related. That is clearly why UNC football did not post anything from Drake May's electric primetime win over the Buffalo Bills. A little bit on the petty side there.
They need to fire him.
I think I actually saw something before we hopped on that Belichick, who apparently Hulu was supposed to do like a hard knocksy type deal, documentary thing with the college football program, has backed out of doing said documentary, and rumors are that Bill Belichick may be exploring his own $1 million buyout option.
Yeah. I don't think it's a good fit. I think him and his little girlfriend need to just go off into the sunset and be out of the public eye permanently. Personally. But, anyways, Monday Night Football, because I don't want to get into the Bill Belichick talk because it's just gross. The Jaguars beat the Chiefs 31-28 in what was a very good game. Chiefs get out to a lead early. Jaguars come back and forth it goes. The stumble Rooski is Trevor Lawrence gets taken down by his own center, falls down, gets up, runs in for the game-winning touchdown. The Jaguars at home beat the Chiefs. They move to 4-1. The Chiefs fall to 2-3. This is where the chaos in the AFC is just lurking right now. These teams we thought might be better, like Jacksonville, like New England, they're starting to bite some of the teams we knew were good, and maybe they're not as good as we thought they were. The Chiefs' offense looked very flawed, no real grit in the running game. The passing game's looking pretty good, but Patrick Mahomes is the running game in its entirety. Um, I just don't like what I'm seeing out of the Chiefs. That defense doesn't look as dominant as it used to. And maybe Rashee Rice comes back and fixes things for this offense, but right now it doesn't look healthy.
The play where I really thought that Jacksonville really had it was the pick six.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
was just
that
like,
that felt like a big, okay, this game is probably going to turn very quickly. It didn't, but it was enough to help them maintain enough momentum to get the win.
and
All
then
right,
you,
that is go ahead.
oh no, and then you just have all the Chris Jones criticism, but he probably thought the play was over.
Yeah, I mean, he's a defensive lineman. It's late in the game. The guy falls down, and then he gets up and runs away from him. Like you got to give more of an effort than that. I get it, but at the same time, I understand where it's coming from. All right, let's go to the Thursday night game. Philadelphia at the New York Giants. You're going to play Saquon Barkley. You're going to play Jalen Hurts.
Mm.
Play the wide receivers for the Eagles at your own risk. They have not been good. I know they're big names. They're hard to bench, but they haven't been good is all I can say. Dallas Goedert, though, has been pretty good for the Eagles. He's probably got to be in your lineups. For the Giants, pass. Theo Johnson at tight end seems like he's going to get a lot of work, at least a lot of targets. Had 2 touchdowns last week on a limited amount of targets. That should improve. Wan'Dale Robinson's going to have to find a way to be the number one wide receiver. I don't know if he's capable of it. And then with Tyrone Tracy coming back, I think you're still playing Cam Scatterbo, but you're tempering your expectations. If this is more of a 50-50 split, both guys are not going to be great fantasy options, but if one of them get a touchdown, they'll be okay. I don't think Jackson Dart is startable in most leagues that are not super flexes at the very least. I have a feeling this is going to be a very ugly game. Either it's going to be low scoring and very nervy for the Eagles, or the Eagles are going to come out and vent some frustration. I don't see it being um, like a 10 to 15 point Eagles win. I see it being either very, very close, goes either way, or the Eagles by 30. Joel, what do you
Yeah,
think?
I tend to lean more towards the Eagles by 30 because the Eagles were absolutely humbled by the Broncos this past week, and they're going to be wanting to get back on track. I know you're going to have some people out there thinking, "Oh, this could be a trap game. This could be a letdown game." But Giants have looked just absolutely horrid when they lose to the who did they lose to? Oh yeah, the
Saints.
Saints. So yeah, and I know the Eagles definitely have their problems. You know, certain wide receivers out there chirping, wanting the ball more, and when Jalen Hurts gives into that, that definitely throws out the whole game plan that Sirianni, of course, has cooked up. So yeah, I think the Eagles are going to be maybe getting back to more of what they do, which is not given to wide receivers, feed Saquon more, and I think it's as you said. I think the game is definitely ugly, but I think the Eagles get back on track. It's hard picking the Giants here. It really is. I know it's not out of the realm of possibility, especially since it's a Thursday night football game. You have the probability things switched and reversed, but you just have to pick the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Eagles as well. Again, if I say I can see the Eagles winning by 30 or being a toss up game that's very, very close, I'm going to take the side that I think can win by 30 if things go the right way. Short week on the road. It's a tough situation, but I think the defending champs, after getting beaten last week by the Broncos, they're looking to vent some frustration. Hopefully for Eagles and their fans, this is the best week of football you've seen them play all year. Hopefully you get a complete game, but the Giants, they have a good defense. There's a nagging part of my brain that says, this is going to be a closer game than they want, a closer game than you expect. And if that's the case, maybe there's an upset brewing. Thursday night football can be chaotic, but I'm going to take the Eagles. It's the smart pick. It's probably the right pick, but for some reason, it just doesn't feel good right now. Anyways, that is picks. That is our Mark Sanchez talk in our Week 5 recap. So, Joel, let's go to final thoughts and lead you off.
Final thought is, and I'll do for our vocal cords, I will do the TLDR version. Who was the biggest loser this week? Mark Sanchez, already documented. Baltimore Ravens for getting flattened by a
Mark
Texan
Sanchez.
team. Miami Dolphins for
Mark
blowing
Sanchez.
17-0 lead. Cardinals because you
Mark
lost to the
Sanchez.
effing Titans. And the Philadelphia Eagles for playing
Mark
only
Sanchez.
40. Okay, so that's pretty much
He got stabbed. He
no
got
matter
drunk, pepper sprayed, and stabbed by a 69-year-old man.
no
You
matter how
don't
bad.
like the Cardinals was bad. The Dolphins was bad, but at least Tua got to go home to his wife and kids, like he said. Mark Sanchez got stabbed and lost his job, probably.
No
He's
matter
gonna
how
go to jail. He
no
should.
matter how no matter how bad on the field, it wasn't as bad as it was off the field.
Amari DiMercado dropped the ball. Mark Sanchez got effing stabbed. He wins. He's the loser of the week. There's no debating it. I don't wear a Jets jersey today because they're 0-5 if it's not the Mark Sanchez jersey. It was the big loser of the week. It's fun to mock the Jets. It's fun to say they're a crap team. I'm a Dolphins fan. It makes me happy to insult the Jets. But
Biggest
when
loser.
the
Biggest
Jet, I
loser.
mean, the
Mark
Jets
Sanchez.
and the
Mark
Mark
Mark,
Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez or Penn State. Mark Sanchez.
Well, yeah, it is, but it's a little closer there. Oh, yeah, that was embarrassing. Losing to UCLA. Hey, USS rated again though after beating Charlotte. My final thoughts is just to kind of reflect on where we are right now. This time last year, we were under the gun of a Category 5 Hurricane Milton coming to Florida. My grandfather just passed away, and we had not done a podcast after this date
Yeah, kind of hard to do
for
that
a
when
very
you
long
don't have
time.
power.
Yeah, I mean, we had stopped it prior to my grandfather's passing, prior to Milton really forming, but then that week became chaos, and then I didn't have a place to record, even though I had power at a safe place. I just didn't have room to set up my stuff. Long story. We're not going to get into it, but fortunately, it's been a very interesting year. Not necessarily good in a lot of ways, obviously, since my grandfather's passing. Um, Performed his funeral, which was not ideal. But it's just crazy to think that this time last year, the situation in life was so very, very different, where you didn't know what each day was going to bring, and now like we're kind of back to a normalcy, and it's still very, very weird. I mean, I'm in the house he passed in right now. It's odd, but the oddity of having no hurricanes this year, which is good for hey, I'm gonna say it. We're not getting one on this state. We're not getting one. I'm saying it. No, we're just not. I think it's going to be shut down by a cold front in about a week. Temperature is going to drop. It's going to at least minimize the risk. I don't think it's happening this year. I said that from the beginning. My vibes are not. This is the year off. Hopefully, I'm right. But to be where I am now with new home, Rocket the dog running around somewhere right now, getting ready for a trip out of state to play disc golf. Which next week we will have our normal shows. I will be in a hotel room when I do them, but that's fine. It's a very interesting reflection time for me, and I'm very grateful to be back to normal. But definitely a long, interesting in some ways that we don't want to be interesting year last year since last time and last year with Milton.
Yeah,
So
even
just
even when
grateful to
you
be back to normal.
yeah, even when your fantasy teams aren't fun as what made fun as they were last year, your pick'ems kind of suck for the week. Just definitely remember that it could be a lot worse, and
Yeah.
to just sort of kind of like water off of a duck's back. Something you do for fun. It's a hobby, and there's a lot more serious shit out there, if I can use the word.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, that is our time. Again, we're from hurricane proof Florida. Can't happen, won't happen this year. Putting my name on it. Um,
You
I
like
don't
when
believe
you like
this.
when you watch Dennis Phillips and he does a lot of zoop.
Yeah, I like when he's talking about his kids playing softball or baseball or sports, because that means there's nothing to worry
Yeah, 'cause,
about.
or he's talking about the hurricane decorations or Halloween
Halloween
decorations.
decoration. He doubled down and got a giant pumpkin. So I mean, he's on my side. Not happening, can't happen. Even though he says one's going to come in late October.
Yeah, even though I like how he goes that he's not using the Q word.
Oh, it's quiet out there. I'll say it. Yeah, it's going to be a below average season, I think, at this point. But, anyways, that's your time. I'm flying Ryan Ryan along with.
Tampa Motor Joe Verlin.
Back on Friday for the rest of Week 6 picks. We'll recap the Thursday night game. Maybe we'll update the Mark Sanchez.
Can I do more than 4 picks right this week? Woohoo!
I mean, there's 15 games. There's only 2 teams on bye, so your odds are good. But we got to get back on track. Last week was not ideal. And, yeah, we'll try and do better next week. And with that, we gone.